Welcome back. So today's video, we're at the ancient city of Pompeii here in the south of Italy. This is one of the best archaeological sites pretty much anywhere in the world because of what happened here with the volcano. You probably can't see it, but it's just over my left shoulder here. And essentially it destroyed this town, but in the same time preserved this town. Now there's plenty of videos that you'll be able to watch that explore Pompeii and show you all the ins and outs of Pompeii, but the question that we're wanting to connect with today is, was there a church here in Pompeii? Was there a Christian faith here in this ancient city?
Pompeii sat 14 miles southwest of modern-day Naples at the foot of Mount Vesuvius. It was a bustling commercial hub with a population of about 11 to 15,000. It had paved streets, grand villas, a thriving marketplace, public baths, theatres, temples dedicated to Roman and Greek gods. The city reflected the wealth and sophistication of the Roman Empire at that time. It was a wealthy city. In many ways, the city could have been described as opulent, decadent, and in some ways even debauched in its lifestyle. Just to give you a little bit of a taste of the opulence of the city, what we see on the screen now is where the gladiators would fight. This was the arena in which the slaves and the gladiators would fight to death. And this was essentially, for the pleasure of the people there. On top of this, there is also the theatre that is there. This is one of the nicest, best kept theatres actually in any archaeological site that you'll find. As you can see, it's probably not the biggest theatre that you'll actually see in the area, but it is extremely well kept. Pompeii has about 35 lupanas or brothels, something that the local tour guides really enjoy showing you, adding to Pompeii's reputation. Then came the disaster that Pompeii is famous for. On the 24th of August AD 79, Mount Vesuvius erupted without warning. A towering column of ash, gases and punic shot over 20 miles into the sky. Within hours, ash and volcanic rock rained down on the city, collapsing roofs and choking the air. Many people fled towards the sea. Others hid in their homes, hoping to survive. But the deadliest phase was yet to come. The next morning, a proclic surge, a wave of superheated gas and ash swept through the city, hundreds of miles per hour, instantly killing anyone in its path. In a matter of hours, Pompeii was completely buried, lost under nearly 20 feet of volcanic debris. For nearly 1700 years, Pompeii lay forgotten until its rediscovery in the 18th century, revealing a remarkably preserved city, complete with buildings, artwork, and even the remains of its inhabitants cocooned in volcanic rock. However, it's really interesting to note that a number of years before the destruction with the volcano, Pompeii was really a city in transition. In AD 62 or 63, a massive earthquake struck the region, causing widespread destruction, including the collapse of temples dedicated to Jupiter, Apollo, and even Venus. In the aftermath of this destruction, the people of Pompeii started turning to different religious beliefs, seeking answers and seeking protection. This was a time of religious searching, and new faiths such as the worship of Egyptian goddess Isis were growing in popularity. It was the perfect setting for a small but growing movement like Christianity to start to take root. Bruce Longenecker, a historian and author of the book The Crosses of Pompeii, has studied possible Christian symbols and inscriptions in the ruins of Pompeii. He suggests that Christianity may have had a small but growing presence in the city before AD 79. One of the bits of evidence that Longenecker discusses is a large cross-shape image at one of the main bakeries in the city. There would have been a number of different bakeries. It was a largish city, but there was definitely this one bakery which had a large cross symbol demonstrating the connection to the Christian faith. There were, of course, other images all across the city, which we'll look at shortly. On the screen here, we'll see a different bakery that was in the city. These are ruins that are just so well kept. On the screen here, we'll actually see inside one of the large opulent buildings, a home, and this will show you just how much money there was in the city for the rich. When you look at rooms of this size and scale, and even courtyards in the middle of the homes, and just how impressive these places were, it really does speak to just the sheer opulence of the city. Not only is the opulence on display here, but in these houses we can actually see some of the worship practices that were on display, but then also some of the artwork that was on display in just these regular houses, and just the absolute detail that was there, as well as the mosaics that were on the ground. It really is impressive. The second bit of evidence that Longenecker talks about is graffiti. Now, interestingly enough, graffiti around the walls of Pompeii is not actually that strange. In fact, it's actually a relatively commonplace. What is different about this particular graffiti is what it says, Viviti, or he lives, and it is there on one of the walls in Pompeii, which is a Christian slogan that was used from time to time, not just in Pompeii, but indeed around the Roman Empire. He lives. What makes this even more interesting is when this Viviti is written, the last two letters, the I and the T, are written on top of each other, written in a way that makes it look like a giant cross or a crucifix, demonstrating the connection to Jesus being the one who lives. The third bit of evidence that he discusses is also a bit of graffiti, this time on the inside of the wall in an inn. It says, Audi Christianos pro vici, which roughly translates to listen to the Christians for the good of the neighborhood. This suggests that there were Christians and that they were respected by a good number of people, or at least some people within the community, and that there was an encouragement to listen to the Christians because it was recognized that what they were talking about was positive for the city. The fourth bit of evidence that we can see is that there was a ring that was owned by a man named Megas, and it was found in Pompeii. Now, on this ring was the cross as well as the symbol for eternal life, bringing the two images together, that of eternal life and of Jesus. The fifth bit of evidence that we can see concerning the early Christian church in Pompeii has to do with 19 crosses around the city. 10 of them were found near the bakery and possibly linked to the cross on the bakery wall. A further 9 were found around a major street. Now, what is interesting about this is it wasn't just any major street, it was a major street where the Christian graffiti that was already talked about was. Now, these cross-like symbols could mean something different, but the fact that they are strategically placed near these other Christian graffiti sites probably suggests that they are indeed crosses to do with Jesus, letting the city know about Jesus. What we see on the screen at the moment is the temple to Apollos. This is probably the biggest and most important temple within the city and was a very central part of communal living and part of the culture there in Pompeii, far more so than the Christian church would have been. No doubt that this temple is grand and impressive and one of the most important parts of the community there in Pompeii, but this on the screen right now, this cross for the early church, demonstrates its presence there in the community there in Pompeii. The church existed there. We see the evidence. There is not just one or two or three, there is multiple examples of the church being there in Pompeii, which demonstrates that there was a church there, even though it didn't get talked about in the New Testament. But it is definitely there and had a presence within that community. If there were Christians in Pompeii, they would have perished along with their fellow citizens in AD 79. Yet they would have faced death with a different perspective, a hope in the resurrection of Christ.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked that video, please press the like button. It really does help our channel. Also, please press the subscribe button, because then you get to be kept up to date with all of the new content that comes up onto Dr. Campbell's YouTube channel. Secondly, if you would like more of this kind of content, Dr. Campbell has a bunch of these sorts of books that it's available on Amazon. So looking at this book, this is Synagogue as Heritage, looking at the Tabernacle, Temple, Synagogue, and all the way leading into the church, and also Ecclesia, The Long Journey to Tomorrow. These are books looking at church history. There's also other books, smaller books that are things like Ancient Ephesus and Early Christianity. She has a bunch of these books that you can find on Amazon, so let me encourage you to go over and check out some of her books as well. But thanks for watching the video.